Welcome, welcome to Simplify Your Life. Simplicity, Simplify Your Creativity with Terry Runyan. And me, Sue Carney. I make magic of all kinds over at magnoliaswest.com. And part of the work I do, part of the work that came together for me early this year in my coaching work, in my writing, and in my studying was this idea of simplicity. This idea partly sparked by the conversation all around me around sparking joy and decluttering, the Marie Kondo breath of fresh air that was inspiring people. And I know that it also really resonated with me because I've been seeing that what sparks joy isn't married to things or things outside of us and circumstances and possessions. So I've been having the conversation about simplicity and simplifying your life in calls like this and in different kinds of conversations and across different topics, because really any lens through which we look at this is a lens we can apply to everything that we do, as Terry and I were just saying right before we started, as in art, as in life. Today is really cool though, because I'm warming up now, because we're going to talk about creativity. And for me, that's something I'm really enjoying more and more in my life these days, as many of the ideas and blocks that I thought I had between me and creative expression have been falling away over the last few years in deeper and deeper ways. And that's been really profound for me. It was really, I used to choke on putting I and artist in the same sentence. And because I didn't feel like I had the chops, I didn't feel like I had the talent, I didn't feel like I knew how to do anything but be very derivative and copy others, and that's not good enough. And I, like, I'm seeing, like everybody, we get the messages we get from the people who are nurturing us and teaching us, and they're doing the best they can. But I know as a young girl, I love to tinker with things, and I got diverted from that. I got diverted from that early and pointed to more feminine pursuits. I'm tinkering again, and boy, that's just like a thing from, I think I was born with a desire to have my hands in things and to get messy and to play.
Hi.
And I'm going to mute everybody so so that we don't get distracted, and which I just did. So that's a really good time for me to, and Terry, please unmute yourself, to invite Terry to speak herself into the conversation. And I'd love for you to say whatever's on your mind right now. And then I have some like questions or topics we might hop around in between. I'm just going to open a window. I'm not leaving, I promise.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sue. I'm really happy to be here, and I can relate to so many things you're saying as far as, how I used to feel about my art and not feeling good about putting myself and art in the same sentence. They just didn't jive for me, and was really curious because I was a in-house illustrator for 30 years. I graduated with a design illustration degree, and I was still, after nearly 30 years, towards the end of my career, I did start shifting, was still thinking that I wasn't really an artist. And it was amazing to me when I started to realize what was happening in my awareness that I had that sense that I wasn't, and the shift that has happened since that time in how I see myself and how I see what I do, in how I share with people, and how I show up for creativity. So
when you look at that shift, what do you see, the from and the to, and what was the shift for you?
I went from being, I had just such a low sense of self-esteem and self-worth. I had a sense that I had some sort of quote unquote talent, but it was never good enough. You know, as a real perfectionist, inner critic, all kinds of stuff would be going on in my head whenever I'd be creating. So what I learned to do to get around that, since I was in a career of creating, is move really fast. I got extremely quick at what I did. And I stayed ahead of those voices. I stayed ahead of, you know, that sinking feeling that I'm going to be found out. And I stayed extremely productive. Even though in the back of my mind I was going, wow, if anybody ever found out about me. And there was the imposter syndrome in full swing. And then I still, even with all that, I had a sense of myself as being something, or all of us being something more than that. Like in some way I knew everything was okay, even though I was living in a state as if it wasn't. I was sort of in this urgent, get it done, go faster kind of mode most of the time. And then I came across an understanding that helped me see that what's happening is I'm experiencing my thought in the moment. It comes up in my experience through feelings, and that those thoughts are actually made up, that they don't have anything to do with who I am. And it's okay that they come through, that I don't have to do anything with them. And after, 20, 30 years of therapy, trying to get rid of thoughts and trying to get, myself not depressed or not feeling bad about myself.
Or change your thoughts, or
changing my thoughts, or letting it go even. Like this, I'm in charge of doing this, to realizing it's all transient. It's habits. It's things we've heard that at some point in our life we believed, and we've continued with the same beliefs. And then all of a sudden you come to the understanding that, oh, those are beliefs. Those are ideas that are not true, but I think they are. And what is true is this bigger understanding of who I am and who we all are. When the thoughts come through, I can look at them now and not get caught in them. It's just not that I never get caught in them, but I see it a lot quicker. And, I don't have to run for the telephone and talk to my therapist about every thought that comes into my head. So, or actually what happens more often than with me is, the thoughts go through and I just stop, or go even faster, which is not natural, not necessarily my natural pace is to be running or stopping because of these thoughts that are coming up. So I've learned how to, and I talk a lot about this on my YouTube channel. I've learned that my thinking that's going through has nothing to do with my well-being. As long as I don't get caught in it as if it's true and real. Because if I do think it's real and true, I will feel it as if it is, because that's what happens with thinking.
I want to go back to the going really fast. Because
okay.
when I started putting things together in a visual way, I also worked super duper fast, and I used to call it outrunning my inner critic.
Yeah.
And I think now, listening to you, I'm seeing that because if I slowed down, then I'd likely hear that jabber in my head that all that stuff that I really had so much weight because I believed it, because I was committed to that view of myself. And so, and that other thing you just said, right there at the end, I think we talked about it before we started the call today, of I can feel when I get back into my head. I can feel when I'm in the flow now, when I have a brush in my hand, or now that I'm pouring paint, a cup in my hand, and I'm going like this. And then if I get into my thinking, the paint will either spill, or I will, my brush, things will go from looking flowy to looking, it's like immediate feedback that I'm not I'm not present anymore. I'm censoring myself. I'm not in the flow. It sounds so judgy, and like I think that that's a state that's attainable, or permanent samadhi. No, but I do see too where the more I give weight or time or attention to that thinking when it comes up, the longer I'm clunky. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I like to sort of think of flow as what is always happening, to take the mystery out of it, as if it's, because when we think of flow as some state that's divine, that only happens occasionally when we forget that, all of our quote unquote problems are distractions, it seems like something ultra special. And what I'm coming to find out for myself and how I see this is flow, like joy, like happiness, like peace, like being okay, is our natural state. And what happens when we are not feeling what we call flow is we're simply focusing on something that's passing through. And it doesn't mean we're not in flow, but our attention is on something keeping us from knowing that flow is happening. So that's the way I like to look at it, because I can never be out of flow.
Well, it's like a visual image, like a beautiful stream with a really, really, really honking big rock in the middle of it. And so when you were saying that, I just saw myself hunkering down in front of the rock with the water flowing around me, but all I can really feel and most of what I can see is rock. So yeah, like that, because yeah.
And that even what feels like a rock is not solid.
With what?
Even what feels like a rock is not solid.
Right. Okay.
Because in the next, one of the examples I like to use is and I've experienced this myself. I've been really like caught up in being depressed, or caught up in some sort of physical ailment, or, I have a cold, or something's going on, or I feel blocked with my creativity, or whatever it is. And if something happens that takes me out of that because I am more interested in the thing happening, for instance, say that somebody needs my help. I get a phone call. Someone needs me to pick them up because they had a car accident or something. They're not hurt, but they need me. All of a sudden, all the thinking I had, all the feelings I had around being depressed, around not being, being stuck, being blocked, it all falls away because my mind is on something else. That's how quick it can happen. We are, one instant away from that ease again, that movement. So the rock disappears. Your daughter calls you, say, and says, "Hey, Mom, I need to get together," whatever. And then all of a sudden the rock's not there. What happened to the rock? It feels very solid when we're believing it.
Yes.
It feels very solid when we're caught in it and massaging it and trying to do something with it. Even trying to let it go is making it more and more solid. When we realize that who we are is the thing, we are this creative force, and what is going through as we're being creative, or we're living our life, or whatever it is we're doing, having a phone call like this, is we're in this natural flow, and I might even on this call have a thought, I get self-conscious, like, oh my gosh, I'm being videoed, and I don't know what question is going to come next. And there's these thoughts go through, and I can feel a sense of stomach, physically. And then but I realize that's not a problem. It's just like, that isn't that interesting, the way when I thought of self,
consciousness,
self-consciousness comes up, I have a feeling around that of, oh no, like that's rock. But it doesn't, nothing happens with it. It just filters off like any other thing that comes up. The less I pay attention to it, the less I take it seriously, the less I believe in it. And that same thing happens with artwork. I talk about this all the time in my videos, that I always have thoughts going on. I mean, sometimes I don't, I guess, because I'm not aware of them. But when I'm doing my artwork, there's oftentimes a whole repertoire of thoughts going through my head that are very familiar to me, that are throwing in their 2 cents about what I'm doing. And I find them more and more entertaining and less distracting, because I don't take them seriously like I used to.
So that you neither flinch from them nor...
Sometimes I even flinch from them, but then I get entertained by that too. Yeah, it makes really good humorous stuff for when you're on video to kind of play with that, because it doesn't impact our flow. It doesn't impact our creativity, because that's natural to us in our resting state.
Well, I just had this lovely insight about flow. It's like what you just described. Again, it's not about, and I don't know if, again, was part of this conversation or another conversation you and I had previously, but about thinking I have to know, or thinking I have to,
yes,
whatever, even the next step beyond this step right now, the less I have invested in knowing what I'm going to have in 5 seconds or in 5 weeks, the more comes through, I think, and I think, and I like the way you say that it's not that I have to step into the flow, but that I can help myself remember I'm in the flow if I just lighten up a little bit.
Another thing we were talking about, maybe this is partially what you were alluding to there, was this idea of the unknown being risky.
Mm-hmm.
And creativity by its very nature is moving into the unknown. So there's something that has happened with me, and I think this is maybe one of the biggest things that's happened since I was, back in that stage where I had to run with my artwork to stay ahead of my demon voices. The risk, what I see more and more is there's actually no inherent risk in creativity. That the risk piece came when I thought that what I did had something to do with who I am. That I'm only as good a person as my last piece of art and how many likes I got on Instagram. I mean, and that's the way we learn to think in this culture, is somehow we have to have external validation that the internal is not good enough to know itself to be okay. And so we're constantly striving to get likes and follows and, to make sure everybody approves of what we're doing. So when you're working with creativity, which we always are, but it seems very obvious when we're doing artwork. And you have that kind of idea that whatever comes out of your brush hand or pour can next is going to make or break your sense of self. Like if someone doesn't like it, what's that going to mean about me? If someone does like it, oh, what does that mean about me? And your moods are going up and down based on whatever anybody else thinks about what you do. And so that piece for me has literally vanished. I'm not saying it never pops up. Like the habit of thought goes through once in a while where I'll say, oh, whatever. I didn't get a like on that or whatever. Simplifying this. But I quickly remember whatever it is I'm putting forward, I'm sharing with the world around my art. And, the act of doing art is sharing in its very nature. It is putting forward, is not a reflection of me. It's a amazing creative thing that's coming through me. And I am, it reflects. It's not that it doesn't reflect anything about my life. I mean, I love cats. They tend to show up in my artwork. And also they show up in my paintings with their hands and everything else. You notice I said hands and not paws. We cat lovers know what I'm talking about. So when I realize who I truly am, now, I don't want to get too woo-woo here, but our resting state of innate creativity, our resting state of well-being, that which we are before we have to go do something to be okay. That, a lot of us were raised with the idea that we started as less than. I'm saying that very nicely because I heard a lot more than that around. I believed a lot more about who I was. That was a lot bigger than less than. And so I spent most of my life trying to prove myself to myself as well as everybody around me that I wasn't as bad as I think I am. And now that whole idea about myself has evaporated. It's like, oh, that was made up too. That isn't me. And the freedom of that has made a huge impact on every area of life. When you're starting as joy, when you're starting as happiness, when you're starting as creativity, and you're sharing it, and it's a full plate that never empties. It's just awesome.
Well, now it's the third time in the last 3 minutes I wanted to say as in art, as in life.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying is, everything. It's like with my, I don't just make art, and I don't share my art with the world like you do. I share it, but I share it very, very small scale. The fact that I do share it and gift it and have even thought about selling it at some point is very new to me. But that same creative energy coming through me is also having me or letting me make these healing and beauty products that I'm making that I'm hoping will eventually be sold in dispensary shelves in California that are beautifying and healifying and transformative and for women in the third of life. And, and that is also a bringing together of everything, all the hippie herbal lore I got in the 70s and the cannabis as medicine lore that I'm been learning for the last 5 years is just weaving together into magic. And that's this, for me, the same kind of expression. That's exactly the same kind of expression. I don't know who it will help or how it will be received when I make it. Obviously, I must know because people fucking love it. But yeah, yeah. But yeah. So that. But it's that. I don't know if it's too late to ask you one more question about creativity before we open it up. But or if I don't mean too late in time. I mean maybe we've gone beyond this kind of a question, and if we have, I'm okay with that too. But I really love to talk about, I guess it's a 3-part question, how you know how you know what to create and how you know when it's finished. And then the third part, which is really not connected, but it is in my head. And how do you know what your style is, and does that matter? I don't know, we could probably cover that in a minute and a half.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I have stuff I do when I'm walking. I mean, the way creativity happens for me is I know I'm going to create something every day because that's just something I decided, right? It's very arbitrary. But what it does is that decision to do that, and that's why the Daily Creating group got started and all that, to kind of invite people to experiment with this, even if it's for a minute a day, is it takes that whole conversation around whether I'm going to do something or not off my plate, which frees up a massive amount of energy. I know I'm going to do something because that's just what I do. It's like having a cup of coffee in the morning. So that's the beginning. I go over and sit down. And oftentimes I'll start with a prompt because I have the prompts going on in the Daily Creating group. And anybody who sees this is welcome to join us there. I'll give Sue the link to share. And it happens in a lot of different ways. Sometimes it happens where I make blobs of color. I mean, where I have nothing, I don't know what it's going to be. And then it starts to form into things. I mean, that's the most arbitrary way I work. I also will fire up Pinterest and start going through visual artwork or anything visual, and pay attention to the sense of, it's like we all can feel this when we get that sense of, oh, it's like a quickening. It's like I'm inspired, that inspiration feeling, that spark. And when that happens, I don't keep researching. I'm not saying I never keep researching because it's such a habit to keep researching, I call it researching, to keep looking through stuff. There's got to be maybe even a better feeling that's going to come or something. I don't know. I mean, I can go into all I used to do around that, which is days and days of researching with no output. But now I realize that for me, really paying attention to that feeling when it comes and moving in that moment when it's happening.
A spark.
It feels different for everyone, maybe, or maybe it feels the same, but words will never do it justice. It's a sense of inspiration. It's a sense of, so I move forward with it. It could be a shape I saw. It could be a color I saw. It could be a character I saw. It comes in infinite ways. I sometimes will look at my tile floor and see something. Or, you look at a cloud.
Next to each other. It could be, anything.
Yeah, it could be anything. And the thing itself is not what's important. It's the sense of inspiration that's important to me. And that's what I go with. Not always. I'm not perfect. But, as soon as I notice I'm going off into this never-ending looking mode, I stop myself. And I pay attention again, because that's how I move and enjoy my artwork, is to pay attention in those moments when that spark hits. As far as things being done, for me, it took years for me personally to have a sense of when something is done. I mean, I got a sense, but I would overwork, and then I'd go into Photoshop and fix it and do all these things, and still never really quite be sure. And I worked with a lot of art directors, so they were all putting their stuff in too around whether I was done and whether it needed to change. And so it only recently have I started getting a sense of that. There's just since I'm not running for my life now when I create as much, I'm just present with what's happening. I notice more about when something feels like this feels done, or I'm going to stop right now. I could come back to this later. I didn't used to notice that because I was so busy going so fast. I would bypass that. It's kind of like eating fast. You don't even know you're full. And then all of a sudden you're way too full because you've been eating so fast, So never used that analogy before. So that was your third question.
Or binge too many episodes of a TV show.
Yeah, exactly. So some people, I think, I was a slow learner around that. It could be that some people could get there a lot faster to be able to tell.
You know what else, Terry, that just came to me? I've been finding that sometimes something looks done and sometimes it doesn't, and that maybe that also doesn't matter so much.
Yeah.
So that I will see something, whether it's a piece of writing or a piece of art or the wardrobe I take out tonight for tomorrow. In the morning, I might revise it, depending on the lens I'm looking through in the moment, or what else is going on in my head, or what was going on in my head when I thought it was done in the first place. Maybe not so much now. So, Nina's saying goodbye.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Anyway, I think that I meant that so I got distracted by that. Sorry. I don't know if I completed my thought, but it doesn't matter.
Well, what I heard you saying, Sue, was ultimately, it doesn't matter if our piece is finished or not. I mean, we make up all kinds of stuff around it has to be finished a certain way. It has to, all the has to thoughts or have to thoughts that we have around it. And those don't feel real great either. If we are present with our art, or even when we're not present with our art, ultimately what we're doing is we're playing with life. We're playing with life, and that's what creativity is. We're the ones, art culture, what we think about art and all that stuff is something we're bringing to it, that it has to have an end point. Not all artists have an end point with their work. It just keeps evolving, right? That's part of their art.
Well, you just reminded me, I once went to a Picasso show, where they had done x-rays of some of his paintings and found that he had painted over a painting that had been a painting over a painting. There were like layers. So just saying, Yeah.
Or iterations, people, a lot of painters and artists do a lot of iterations of things. So
that's true too.
What was the last part of your question?
It was about style, but I think that it would be great to just open the conversation here too and see what other people have to say. So to Audrey and Kathy and Deb, welcome. Feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free to turn on your camera and join the conversation. That was about, so for me, I feel as a baby artist, I am playing around with style, right? I am playing around a lot and experimenting and messing around. And some of the voices I hear in my head that.
Hi, Deb.
I'm in my dressing gown.
Oh, no problem.
So I'm just going to finish this thought if I can. About that, I have worried about that. I have worried about, is it's my dilettante? Is this bad? Am I, I'm judging my flitting about, which sometimes feels like so much fun until that committee, So I don't know if you've had anything like that or if you could relate.
Oh yeah. I mean, the committee in my head is something I have a lot of fun with when I'm making these YouTube videos, because it comes up all the time. And if people get nothing else out of watching those, the realization that we don't have to give any energy to the stuff that's flitting through our heads, the chatter, even the chatter that this has to be finished, or you're just wasting your time or whatever. But so, Deb, did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I did. I just can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Hi, Deb.
Because I haven't checked anything and it's dark outside still.
Where are you, Deb?
I'm in Australia.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
and I nearly missed it, but I thought, oh look, I haven't even looked in the mirror. I just showed up as Terry likes us to do, and that's it. But I have a question for Terry. I'm just wondering, Terry, has your style changed a lot over the years in all your work that you've done, or has it been fairly consistent for a long time? And yeah, I'm just wondering, did you come to it quickly and then did it just hit you and you stay with it?
That's a great question, because it's part of what Sue was asking around finding your style. I've done a couple of videos around this, and I plan on doing more because I think it's such a big deal for artists, because we are, and even as humans, finding your style. It's as if we're going out or going in or doing something to find this style thing that is something that we're going to go get somehow or learn or excavate.
Yeah.
My perspective and point of view has a little, as far as all those possibilities, mine's a little closer to the excavation piece, although it's not quite that. The way I experience it, and I spent years and years and years looking for my style and trying all kinds of different directions, and everybody's style that I saw that I liked, I tried. And, it was something I did at work. I was working as an in-house illustrator, and we were asked to do as many styles as we possibly could. I mean, that was part of our job.
Right.
Oh.
So when I retired, but this happened before I retired, I started having a sense of, even though I couldn't see it myself, people were telling me they could tell it was my work, which just baffled me, because I thought, how can you tell I'm doing all this different stuff? So what I've come to realize, that our personality, so to speak, our unique essence, for lack of better words, is showing up in everything we do naturally.
Like this.
And we don't have to look for a style. What I've done is I show up and play with art, and style shows up with me, whatever that style is. And it does change. It shifts, and but there's something that people tell me. I mean, I don't know that we can recognize this ourselves.
Yeah.
People tell me they can still tell it's mine. And I'm going, okay, that's great. I have no idea how you do that, right? Because when I left school, I was doing things extremely realistically in oil paint.
Ooh.
I was doing quick dry processes with it because I was doing an illustration thing, but
Oils for illustration.
yes, and
That's
I was using liquid and all kinds of fast drying mix-ins and stuff. But it wasn't till I was working. I mean, at some point in my career, I had some. I was kind of like having a meltdown because everything. I was so tight, and I was so calculative with everything I did, and trying to make it look just so, that at some point, one of the people I was working with said to me, "Terry, you just have to go throw some paint around. Go make a mess. Go just see what comes out of your brush when you're not trying to do anything." So, I was at a state in my life right then where that was exactly what I needed to hear, because I was about to run out of the building screaming because I was so just, yeah. And it just opened something up for me. I found something coming through that I didn't realize was there. It's not that it wasn't coming through already, but I was so caught in my own idea about what something had to look like that I couldn't see past my own tension, my own ideas about what it needed to be.
As a woman, I'm hearing that through the lens of my body image, through my 30s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
30s, and actually earlier than that, when I was a teenager. and it still, you know, lingers, you know, it's there, but the comparing my insides to other people's outsides and standards, that's a word that's coming up for me a lot right now, those standards against which I could never ever do anything but fail, because I got really good at creating standards that were completely unattainable, and they just made up of nothing, made up of cultural story and family story and my own whatever I came in with about how I was prepared to be in life, how I was prepared to be in flow or not. Yeah, so it's really interesting for me and to be in these Simplici-Tea conversations that are about different topics, and it's always the same conversation. You've been to a couple of them, right, Terry? It's so, yeah. So anyway, Deb, where do we go? Did that help?
I don't know if that.
It has helped. I don't think I have a particular style. I actually enjoy doing all sorts of different things. So you might have seen what I posted today, which I haven't done any art for so long. I have, but it's nothing that I've put up online. But I don't know where those realistic little goldfish came from today. That wasn't my plan. I totally was going to do some little characters, but I was so enjoying the process of playing with my new iPad and the brushes, and that's just how it evolved.
Right.
It quite surprised me what I came up with in the end. But I don't have a style. I just enjoy trying different things. I start off sometimes with inspiration from somebody else, but it does evolve from that. It doesn't stay like that for too long. I mean, I have copied some of your little figures. I haven't put them online, and yes, I can do that quite easily, and it's fun, really fun. It's not my thing, but it's still fun to do. Put it that way. It's fun to do, but it's not my thing, and it doesn't have to be my thing, but I guess it's just going from one thing to another and just enjoying that as itself. I'm not expecting any more.
And Deb, I venture to say that that's dynamic too. I just like I'm finding everything in life. What may work for me today or appeal to me today might look different the next season or next week. I might, and I went through a phase, of purchasing all the Prismacolor pencils and trying to get really good at colored pencil work and representational work. And I'm veering very far away from that into paint and abstract right now. But I know that every single thing I've tried to draw, or every single thing I've shaded, it's been some kind of nice practice. And I'm self-taught for the most part, self-taught, YouTube taught, and Terry's YouTube taught, so I just like follow my nose and try different things. But I also see that I like that I've been drawn to a lot of different things, because now that mixed media is starting to occur to me, I have some even more wacky experiments I could start doing.
I think trying different things and maybe following other artists, you do work out what you don't like doing. Put it that way.
It's like there's nothing is wasted,
Yeah.
No, I don't think anything's wasted, and I don't even think it's that black and white. I go back to representational art a lot. I end up covering it over with something abstract, but I still feel the need to do it, and I think that it's probably really good for my eye. One of the hashtags I created in this last couple of years as an artist is learning to see. It's really about how I see things a lot is really changing. And I think it's also changing the way I express myself through my in and out. And plus this in too. it doesn't come through my eyes.
I'm just muting the video because I think.
Oh, cool.
Only because I think my darling's up and about now. I don't think he needs to be.
Did you have something else in there, Deb, that you wanted to talk about?
No,
I think I interrupted you. Sorry about that.
No, I just I've been having trouble just showing up to my art because of life. Life's really got in the way. Not me personally, but family and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst I haven't been putting it online or anything like that, I do scribble and I do play a little bit. It's just finding the time and really, being there. I'm really struggling with that. And look, going back 6 months ago, I was painting every day. So that's really, and I've really been enjoying oil painting and doing portraits. And I'm really struggling to get back to that. And I want to do it, but I know that it means setting up the palette with my oil paints, and it needs a commitment to be able to stick at it. And I just don't seem to have those days at the moment. So I find, and that's annoying me. Yeah. And I don't like that. That's feeling like it's hanging over my head and I must get back to it. That's a problem.
I had a conversation yesterday, Deb, with a friend that we were talking about. She loves to garden. And she has a family too, and she loves to do things with her family. And she's a painter. She's an oil painter. But she really loves to garden too. And whenever she's in the garden, she's thinking, I should be oil painting. I should be in my studio working. And while she's thinking that, she's not enjoying her garden time because she's doing a number on herself around what she should be doing. And I can see her light up when she talks about her garden. Like I can see her light up when she talks about her family. And it occurred to me, that's how I feel when I'm playing with my cats. That's how I feel when I'm making a video. That's how I feel when I'm going for a walk. It all is an amazing part of life. And it's also awesome to create artwork. But all of it informs each other. So seeing those thoughts that come through about how we should be doing something other than we're doing as thinking, going through in the moment, and nothing more than that, has really helped to lighten it makes my life so much more enjoyable no matter what it is I'm doing. And the fact that you're even scribbling on a piece of paper, to me, is an amazing thing to do just to keep your hand moving. Because to me, for me personally, and this may not be for everyone, for me personally, the actual movement, the actual action is what is important. The length of that action, the outcome of that action, all that kind of stuff is far less important for me than the actual act of moving forward with something, even if it's scribbling on a piece of paper.
And for me, I'm sorry, Terry.
I was just going to say the more formal art, the more time-consuming art because of setup or whatever, is always there as a joy to go back to whenever it's time. And so life can be joyful no matter whether we're in the studio working or we're with our family or whatever it is you're doing. So that's all I wanted to share around that.
And I was just going to say my thing about I walk every day. It's a big part of I'm really drawn to it still, so it feels like one of the really good things that I do. And not every walk is the same. Even though I walk the same streets a lot, not every walk is the same for me. And sometimes I see details, sometimes I take out my camera, sometimes I don't pay attention to the visual stimuli at all and I have stuff going on in my head or I'm listening to something. So not every experience of myself in the world from where I derive inspiration is the same. It's like, I think we did talk about this. I'm a mentor to a 10-year-old kid, and Aubrey, I want to hear from you, but I'll just tell this little story. The school year ended, and I'm not going to see her for the summer, and I was like, I don't know, I really want to give her something. I can't figure out what should I give her, and And then I think maybe I talked to you, Terry, but my vision shifted, and I just kind of looked around and rated my treasure boxes. I gave her a couple of wands, one I made, one had been a gift. I gave her glitter and paper and fancy scissors and glue and a book and a pen. And I just brought her this and fancy ribbon and whatever, a treasure bag. And I brought it to her, and her eyes lit up. She was just not the point. The point is, all of a sudden, I could see all these really cool, creative things I could put in this bag for this 10-year-old kid. And it was simple and clear where it hadn't been when I was trying to figure it out a little harder. Aubrey, hi. What's on your mind? Oh, are you muted? Oh, you're not.
I'm part of the daily creating group as of recently as well, and I guess I put down my art for a really long time, and I'm not really sure why, because as soon as I went back to it, I just felt like it was something that I was meant to do, and I'm a kind of a busy mom, but I'm always thinking about like getting back to the sketchbook, because I just love the feeling of creating, and I do want to find whatever my style might be, but I'm really non-committal right now. I'm just kind of all over the place, and I guess I just enjoy doing it, and like I'm just kind of following like what Terry says about just showing up and doing it a little bit every day, and that my style will just, it'll start showing up more often, and I'll start recognizing what it is. I guess right now maybe I'm just trying to commit to like, maybe not commit, but like find the media that I like the best. And I'm noticing that when I work with watercolor, it's not so like rigid like acrylic or something. I feel like it has more play, and I like the mysterious things that it does, and I like the airiness of the look. And so I guess I'm just sort of playing with the aesthetics. And I guess maybe the one thing the question I did have when I came to the group, but maybe you already answered, was, should I be worried that I'm going to look like someone else while I'm doing this playing? Should I be worried that I'm like copying someone else, or does it really matter? Like, do we just borrow each other's styles? Like, is it just sort of, I don't know. I guess that's my question. Like,
Good question.
I spent infinite numbers of years trying all kinds of styles that I saw that I loved. And even in that, I obviously made sure I wasn't so close that there'd be a problem with copyright issues and stuff like that. I was always switching things up, even if I was playing with styles. That was really cool and important to me to do that, because like you're doing, you're starting to see what excites you, what inspires you as you're playing with these different things.
right.
Nobody that you're seeing and then being inspired by made up what they're doing as a style either. We all see tons of work all the time and are inspired by everything we see. Maybe there is such an artist that goes into their deep well and has never seen anything ever. They live in a closed box, and they've never seen anything, and they just kind of like spew forth something. But I have never known anyone that does that. We're all highly inspired by each other. That's just a given. It's like, have you read the book Steal Like an Artist? There's a great book.
No, I haven't.
It's a great book.
It's very good.
It's very good.
I usually have it by my table, but I must have moved it. I used to have it right there.
It talks all about how you can trace back any master or any artist in history to what their influence was. We're all influenced by each other, and there's no problem with that. It's how art. It's like, is the word iterative?
Yeah,
We're we're conglomerating everything we've seen in our life into an expression of something. Or, as visual artists. I think what happens the more comfortable we get with just creating and stuff, we start to create from something that maybe is a bigger inspiration that we're not even aware of. Like I notice when I'm painting, it'll just, the flow of the paint, that it's like we get so enamored, or, it's like Japanese tea ceremonies and stuff like that, where you're just so present for the process. There's such a beauty in that. Even that, we learned how to hold the brush. We're learning from everything in life, and that's all showing up in what we're doing in the moment. And your style, your particular quote, I don't even like to call it a particular style, but I mean, that's the word we use in this country and a lot of countries. It will come through as you work. It can't not come through. It is your voice. It is personal. Right. So even if you are working in the style of somebody in particular, who also is working in the style of people they've seen, your voice will come through.
And Aubrey, there are two things that you said that I noticed. One is your style is your style, and it will evolve and grow as you evolve and grow. So own it now. And then you said, should I worry about this and should I worry about that? And my big answer to that is no, actually you have a choice. You don't have to worry about it. And the less you do, I think the more fun you might have. So, and that's something that I'm unfolding in my own development as an artist and as a woman right now, is this idea that I always need to look for what I need to worry about and solve and fix and take the reins of. And what's happening for me now is that I'm feeling less need to hold that tightly. Instead, to trust that the flow is happening and it doesn't have to be me turning on a tap or pointing a hose, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, that definitely resonates with me, and it makes me feel more free about, I guess, what I'm doing. And you're right.
Yay.
We're all using each other's styles, kind of no matter what we're doing. And I remember, because I went for art education, that was my major, but they always encouraged children to copy other styles that they loved, try pointillism, try impressionism, try abstract art, but they really didn't talk to us. They didn't really teach us a lot about developing ourselves as artists. It was just more about helping children discover the tools and the media and just kind of giving them room to play. But I never really learned how to develop myself as an artist. We never really talked about that. We just did.
Well, if you're in Terry's daily creating group, then you're in a really good place to do that. And I'm really glad you were here today. We're running out of time. So Terry, I think maybe everyone who joined us today knows you already, but if you'd like to say how people can find you, and then I will say how they can find me, and I'll thank you.
Thank you. Everything that I have out there to find can be found through my website at terryrunyan.com. So you can, and anyone who's interested in continuing this conversation can reach out to me through my website as well. You can email me, you can find me on the Daily Creating Group, and I would love to hear from you. So if you have any questions, throw them my way. I will answer them. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on your show. So
thank you. And so I guess, oh, I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I just said great to meet you, Aubrey, and you too, Deb. And I think Kathy left already, so.
Oh, it looks like she did, yes.
Yeah.
So was everyone here from the Daily Creating Group except for Nina? Is that right?
Well, she's in the Daily Creating Group too.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So
yes, I think they were.
I will just say that I would love to connect with you all as well. And the Simplify Your Life Facebook group is a place where this conversation is going on, and you're all welcome to join. I'll put the link in the Daily Creating group under the thing about this event today. And thank you so much, Terry. That was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks everyone. And I can't wait to do it again sometime.
Good. Let's.
All right.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
See you guys.